So today we want to talk about product management for internal platform teams, just to get like the internal platform teams out of the way. What do I mean by that? I mean like all teams who are creating technology but are not like directly interacting with an end customer. So think about internal tools, but also think about like infrastructure, think about platforms, technical platforms who are providing APIs, SDKs, all these sorts of things. It's pretty broad. So, in preparation of this talk, I looked up what's the state of platform engineering, platform as a product, and so on and so on. And I took like the DORA report, which is, I think, one of the most influential and important modern engineering studies. And we have like some good news. So they are saying like 90% of organizations have a platform engineering, have platform teams, at least one. And also that's the basis for the AI success. So that's the foundation for AI stuff. We all crave that. Everybody's asking for that. So cool, right? Perfect place. But then I read further and it got a little bit like more gray, muddier, because they also write that until the user experience is addressed, that means it isn't addressed, the platform's full value remains unrealized. Okay, that's a problem. And then further, they're writing that like the internal development tooling, you have to see it as a product and you have to see your developers as a customer. And that's also what I'm seeing when I'm working with many of these teams, that like I don't see a lot of product people there. I don't see a lot of modern product management. There's like usually not a deep understanding of product discovery. There's not like any like product visioning, product strategy stuff going on. Not a lot of like customer centricity, like all these things. And I'm not saying like these people don't know that or like are not capable of doing that. But it's like all we read and all the things which are out there are for B2C teams, B2P SaaS teams, like customer facing. They're looking at retention, they're looking at like funnel metrics and so on and so on. But we know the world looks differently, right? We know the world looks differently for an internal team. So why I'm talking even about this stuff, I work as a product coach and consultant. I coach teams that serve internal users, so that's one of my focus areas. And I like love to work with like complex environments and help people to actually implement modern product management stuff. Not as it's like written in the books and in the articles, but for internal platforms. And feel free to get connected on LinkedIn. I also write on Mapper Club, but not so important today. I want to talk about platform as a product, right? That's the term we read a lot, we hear a lot about currently in many channels. The question is a little bit like how? How are we doing that? And my simple answer, and I will go deeper into this, is go back to the basics. So what is product management all about? We have like the 4 product risks. We have like the usability, the feasibility. Usability is classical designer world, but oftentimes in platform teams, it's covered by engineers because they know how to use like an API, they know how to use these technical tools. And of course, they are like responsible for feasibility. But oftentimes what we are lacking is somebody looking at, is the thing value? Is this thing we are creating really providing some value to the person who's using it? Does it solve their problem? And then the other part of product management, is it viable? So that means, is it even worth investing into that? Does it make sense for a business to put money into this platform? Or is it like just an expensive hobby? And I see like a couple of patterns. So one pattern I see again and again with platform teams especially is, I call it the expensive request takers. And when I see these teams, there are these things going on. So the typical thing is like they are the dependency. Why does it take it so long? We are waiting. Can you prioritize it higher? All these things is like, I think everybody who worked in this field heard this like 1,000 times. At the same time, the interesting thing, which is more or less an oxymoron, is that for leadership, there's like, oh, this platform that costs like crazy amount of money, let's cut it. That's like, can we like get a less engineer there or at least not fund it more? Things so it's like just like we don't want to fund that much into this platform. And the result is like the backlogs are getting longer and longer. I think that's the reality of many teams. They're sitting there, like everybody's dragging on them, and the backlog is getting longer and longer. The second connected pattern to them is, yeah, we have like a lot of stakeholders. We have an endless amount of different stakeholders, but we are talking about customers, but who is this customer? It's totally unclear, like who is this like customer for a customer facing team. That's usually pretty clear, or they have like clear personas and whatever. For platinum teams, it's like security and there's like regulation and there's like these 10 types of people who are using the stuff. Then there's the leadership and so on and so on. So what's happening there? Like discussing priorities, big room planning, having like endless like dependency, priorities, and so on and so on. At the same time, they have stakeholders. They're like, oh yeah, that looks like a nice developer hobby. They love to do like this crazy architecture stuff and so on and so on. But I need results now. Why are they taking ages? And then you have like this one brave person on this team, maybe a product manager, maybe an engineer just with like a product mindset, who is starting to be like, oh, hey, can we do a little bit like experiment? Can we try something? And usually what they're hearing is like, no, 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 no way. That's mission critical. You have to do it. And then I see what teams are doing. And I'm saying like, please don't do that stuff. So they overinvest in prioritization frameworks. They have like crazy formulas, starting with RISE frameworks, getting even crazier. Then they have like a dependency management process. And of course, they're doing a lot of capacity planning, going then into story point juggling. And it's like more and more of the things, more and more meetings, and so on and so on. And then at the same time, and I think we heard that already in the intros, a better requirement intake process. So we have like a better form, we have like a nice format where we discover what like people describe their feature like and things like that. And I saw many of these things and I don't see them working. So if you see them working, I would be really eager to talk to you, but I don't see them working. So what to do instead? Go back to the basics. Start with defining the customer value. Start define like who is the platform enabling? Who is using the platform? Who is like the consumer? And who are all the other people around? Again, what I love to do with teams is stakeholder mapping. So to understand like, okay, what are the different interests? What are the people influencing? Why are they doing this? What are their roles? What is their job? And so on. To better start to differentiate, okay, this person has like just a business interest. Another person is dependent for using our tech. Another person is just interested that we make sure that it's secure, and so on and so on. But differentiating between these people and just understanding what their mission is. Why are they like even connected or interested into us, and how deeply we have to involve them. And then the second thing is product discovery. Do product discovery. These are your colleagues. So instead of like having this like outside customer, this hard to reach, there's a Slack message, a Teams message, a calendar way. Oftentimes you can find like your users in the canteen. So do interviews. I love to do office hours. So you be publicly about like, okay, approach us, come to us with your problems. To get like more connected to the people who are using you, people who have like interests, and not go into like, oh, let's meet and so on, but really do intentional product discovery. And then the second part is defining the viability. That's the other story. So having a clear understanding what the job of the platform is for the business. Why is it even existing? And for that, you have to get out, like oftentimes platform teams are quite engineering driven, which is natural and important. But they have to get out of just talking about technology and architecture. They have to understand what the business metrics around them are, what other teams are measured on, and then plug into this logic. So understanding deeply how they are connected to the business and also to the business strategy. So I've seen several times that a platform is running in this direction, but the business is running in a different direction. And they are surprised that at some point they cuts, they have like immense pressure from leadership that they're not doing the right thing and so on, because they didn't understand like where the business is heading. They didn't understand like how they're measured, what's important currently for the business, where's the business looking at? Are they looking at the churn? Are they looking at like how fast is something produced and so on? And to do this even better, it's a little bit like the follow the money logic. You can do this two ways. So either you go from like, okay, what are the platform capabilities currently? Who do I enable for that? And what's the business impact resulting for that? So you're creating something which is used in customer success. How is customer success like sped up, maybe cost saving? Or the other way around. Again, you look at the business focus. What is the strategy? Where is the business heading? What problems are resulting from that? And what is your part of the solution in for this problem? So understanding again, where's the business going? Where's the bigger picture and connect to this down. Because this in the end is the key to prioritization, not the like who is the loudest, who is like making the best story up. It's like, why is it worth it? Why is it worth doing this thing instead of the other thing? And then as well as does it fit strategically? Because even it's like if something is saving a lot of money in the short term, it might not fit to the long-term goals. And with that, you can also start to then like measure your own success, like have a clear business understanding of what are you connecting to? How do you work? And the third step to put this together is then for me, I call it the platform story. It's like connecting what you do to why you should do it, to tell like a clear story. For that, I use like, I call it the platform impact blueprint, like one small model that's connecting the consumer on one hand to the business results and on the other side to the features. You can tell the story from what is this feature doing to for which consumer, what is their goal, what are their actions, how do we measure this, how does this express, and then how does it impact the either revenue increasement or protection or cost protection or decreasement. Simple model, and with that I can like start to tell a story because you need to connect the dots for everybody. So when you're talking to the CFO or whoever, like your controller, they are like looking at the money part, but you have to connect them to like why you're doing currently what you're doing. For your own engineer, you also need to like have a clear understanding of, okay, we are doing currently this because it led us up to the other thing. And then for your consuming user, also you need to story. It makes things so much easier if you have like a clear reasoning model you can get out and then like get everybody on the same page. Because the goal is that like if you're talking about your platform, that everybody has like the same idea. Why is this platform existing? Who is it enabling? And how does it make sense for the business? Because so again, what I'm seeing like why platform teams fail is that on one hand, they can't explain the value for the core business. That means they're drowning in stakeholders. They're on one side having like a lot of people who want a lot of stuff from them. And on the other side, like people who are like, we don't give you money. And on the other hand, you have, you can't explain really what you're enabling. So you're drowning in feature requests. You don't have defined like what is the job for your platform. So that means like everybody wants a piece of you. So again, you find customer value, first step. That's also usually what's closest to you. You already have like your feature requests. You already know what you're doing. Get clearer on what you're enabling. Then connect this to the business and then tell a story about that. Short plug, like I know the situations are more nuanced than what this high level talk is. So if you want to talk deeper about this stuff, if you have like the stakeholder problem, so on, let's talk about that. Because I think like platforms are the backbone of every organization. So, but they're often treated like this internal playground, like the model train of the developers. And I want to change this. Thank you for your time. And I think we have plenty of time now for questions, critique, and so on.
Thank you for the great talk.